Hi, oh, excuse me, and welcome to another episode of Mr. Bench's Book Reviews. What is in the box today? Oh no, the box has fallen open. Well, oh dear. That's embarrassing. Can I see what was in the box? I can. Here we go. Okay, here we go. What's in the box today? Sorry about that. Here it is. It's The Silver River by Sheila McCullagh, probably illustrated by Jon Davis. I will just see. Yes. And this is the 5th installment in this story series about the Iron Boy and the Sandalwood Girl, who you can just see sitting on the back of that winged pony, who we met in the last book. Do check out the other reviews if you like. I'll put them either up here periodically throughout the video, or I shall link them in the comments. As I've said in the other videos, these are self-contained enough for you to follow vaguely what's going on, but do watch them in order if you want to. This is the 5th and final part, so we are reaching climax, as it were. There's a map at the front. In the previous ones, there was a map of the country of Zorn, but now we have a more zoomed-in map, I think, of the Blue Mountains, which are in the country of Zorn, and that's where they just arrived at the end of the last book. So isn't that exciting? What's going to happen? There aren't any annotations on this map. There were nice annotations on the last one. There's a compass, and you can see 3 winged ponies, probably flying or skipping across the hills there. Mountains. Here we go. As I've said in the other ones of these are designed for parents to use with young children, so normally I think the intention would be that the parent will read the slightly longer, more complex text, and the young child can read the slightly shorter one on the right hand side. But I'll just read both. I don't have a reading partner with me here today. The story so far, they're recapping the other 4 books so that you are up to speed. The Iron Boy and the Sandalwood Girl were going to the Blue Mountains in the magical country of Zorn. Yeah, they're not originally from there, they've gone there. They were looking for the Silver River because the magician had told them that if they washed in the Silver River, they would become truly alive like other children, and they both wanted to. It was their initial desire. They said, we want to become alive, and the magician said, I know how that can be achieved. Go off to the country of Zorn, bathe in this river. In the country of Zorn, they met 3 silver ponies who had wings. That's an important piece of information, because normally, it's not obvious that a silver pony would have wings and could fly. That's good as well. It's not just like ostriches. One of the ponies took the Iron Boy and the Sandalwood Girl on his back. That's 1 pony, 2 children. I spotted that in the last book, so they've made sure that everything stays consistent. The 3 silver ponies ran along the bank of the river. They opened their wings and flew up into the sky. Exactly, that's where the last book finishes. So now we're getting all new action on the next page. As the sun came up, it had been night time. The Iron Boy and the Sandalwood Girl could see the country of Zorn below them, and all the time ahead of them they could see the Blue Mountains, with their tops covered in snow. As they came to the mountains, the 2 other ponies left them and flew away along a wide valley, but the pony carrying the Iron Boy and the Sandalwood Girl flew higher and higher into the mountains until they had nearly reached the snow. Okay. They could see great rocks below them. There were deep valleys in the mountains. Yeah, so they're trying to find this silver river. I guess it must be high up in the mountains. Very good. At last they saw a great ridge of rock. There was a wide round hole in the ridge, which looked as if it had been cut out of the mountain. Sometimes things do look like that. Sometimes you think that can't possibly have been made by nature, but then it has been. There was an arch at one side where the mountain top rose up towards the sky. I don't quite understand that, but never mind. A river ran out of the arch and fell down into the hole in a great white waterfall. Well, there's a picture, so you can see what's going on. There's the waterfall, and there's this, what they call a hole, and there's some other little tunnel there. Or do they mean that's the arch? I'm not sure. Whatever they mean, there they are. I don't know if the horse is good at walking along rocky mountains, like a mountain goat. It's a pony. Or if it can like kind of fly very low, so its feet don't have to quite touch the rocks. The silver pony flew out over the great hole. He circled around so that they could look down. "That's the river, the Silver River," he cried as he flew through the spray from the waterfall. Far below them they saw the river splashing down into a great pool. On the far side of the pool there was a big cave. That would be that tunnel thing, I suppose. So that won't be the arch I was talking about. That's what they're calling a cave. The river ran into the cave and on under the mountain. Okay. Or through the mountain, I guess. I don't really know. The pony landed on the edge of the cliff, so it has been... Oh, it's found a nice flat spot, look. Like a little plateau where it will not slip, hopefully. "You must go on yourselves now," he said. "I must fly home." But how can we reach the river?" asked the Sandalwood Girl. "There's a path down the cliff on this side," said the pony. "That's handy." The Sandalwood Girl and the Iron Boy crept to the edge of the cliff and looked down. The cliff was very high and steep, and the water was far below them. They could see a narrow path leading down, but it looked very dangerous. Yes, it looks like the rocks may be quite loose, and I can't see any railings or hand rails. They went back to the pony. "Is there any other way?" asked the Iron Boy. "There is no other way," said the pony. That's very typical of these right-hand side things. Instead of saying, "nah, no, sorry," like the kind of repeat, but in the negated form, what the Iron Boy said. I think the idea is that makes it easier to read, or easier to understand, because you don't have to, like, yes and no, you have to figure out what's been asked and see what it's referring to. When it just says, "there is no other way," it also makes it sound somehow more emphatic if there's this repetition, an explicit statement of no other way, you know. The lack of options there being made very clear. "We might climb down that path," said the Sandalwood Girl, "but we could never climb up again." "You won't need to climb up," said the Silver Pony. "The river flows into the cave. The cave runs right under the mountain to the great Valley of Zorn," that's capitalised, "where the people of Zorn live. I've never been there myself, but I've met the people of Zorn in the mountains. Once you get to the Valley of Zorn, the people of Zorn will look after you. Goodbye, Iron Boy. Goodbye, Sandalwood Girl." And that might sound a bit weird, but that's always how they introduce themselves. They never say, "I'm Jeff." They always say, "I'm a boy made of iron." That's what he normally says. The Silver Pony opened his wings and flew away back down the mountain. Well, he's out of there then. You can see on the drawing here where the wing is attached to the side of the horse. It looks a bit weird. But I guess that's because real horses, ponies, don't have wings. So it's a bit hard to know how to draw that. The Iron Boy, I mean, there were loads of... Pegasus is quite famous, so I mean, it's been done before. But I don't know if Jon Davis has studied lots of classical drawings of winged equine animals. I don't know. The Iron Boy and the Sandalwood Girl went back to the edge of the cliff and looked down at the path. I mean, the fact that even calling it a path makes it sound as though it may have been trodden before. I don't know if a path needs to be something that people have walked along. Because otherwise, why would it be a path? They both felt frightened. So fear is another emotion. We've had in previous books that they can be tired, for example, even though they're not truly alive. But they can also be frightened. That's nice. So they do display several features of live children. "We must go," said the Iron Boy. Oh, it doesn't mean go away. It means we must go down there. Sorry. you don't want to be being that ambiguous in a situation like this, because if she says we must go and she goes okay and then just walks off, then that wouldn't be very helpful in this situation. You want to be clearer. There's no other way. That's what the pony said. If we want to wash in the Silver River and become truly alive, like other children. They began to climb down, so she's just silently following. They began to climb down. Before very long, it was so steep and so narrow that it wasn't really a path at all. Maybe it just looked like a path, and maybe no, it's not a real path. The Iron Boy and the Sandalwood Girl climbed slowly down, holding on to the rock. That one, it almost just repeats. I mean, this holding on to the rock isn't something that's been said, but it basically repeats what's just happened, whereas sometimes the right-hand side, slightly easier text, continues the story and adds like really important information. So you can't really get away with just reading the left-hand side or just the right-hand side. You do need to read both, whether alone or in a pair. Because they were made of wood and iron, they moved slowly and stiffly. We've had in previous books that it's been useful to be made of wood because of the fact that wood floats in a river, and it's been useful to be made of iron because it doesn't burn so easily when there's fire. But in this case, it's useless being made of wood and iron, so they need Rubber Boy or Rubber Girl to help them. I don't know, Rubber or Goat Girl, she could be there, be good at climbing on rocks. The rock was slippery, and they held onto it with their hands where they could. The Iron Boy tried to kick footholds with his iron feet, so he's trying to use his special attributes, strong feet, kicking footholds. But the rock was very hard. Oh dear. Iron can be quite soft, at least compared with some metals. But they climbed on. I don't know what rock it is. That's dangerous. A dangerous game, though. Trying to kick footholds, because it's not like it's precision chiseling. You could easily damage things doing that. They tried not to look at the water far below them. Then the Iron Boy's foot slipped on the hard rock well, and he almost fell, but the Sandalwood Girl pulled him back to the path. There, she's showing immense strength. Look, she's catching this heavy Iron Boy with just one outstretched arm, even though both his feet are flailing wildly, and she's managed not to be pulled into the abyss. She must have very good grip on those. She's actually wearing sandals, so she's made of sandalwood and is wearing sandals, probably also made of that wood, and seems to have excellent grip. Well done her. She may just be a better climber. They stood still. Oh no, she's not a great climber. She's fallen off in this next picture. They stood still for a moment, holding onto the rock. They felt almost too frightened to move. But after a few minutes, they began climbing down again. I can see a rock below us jutting out over the water, said the Iron Boy. If we climb down there, we can rest. The Sandalwood Girl looked down. They get tired quite a lot. That's one feature of them. They don't seem like they have much stamina. They don't eat enough complex carbohydrate. I don't know if they eat anything, actually. Whether complex or even simple sugars. They don't seem to. They'll probably have to if they do ever become truly alive. Yeah, which may explain why they're often getting tired. The Sandalwood Girl looked down. But as she looked, the rock she was holding came away in her hand. Oh dear. So she's going to tumble unless Boy can grab her. Is he going to manage to? The Iron Boy caught her dress and pulled her back against the rock. I don't know if the dress is also made of wood. If it just looks like fabric, the way it's cut, or if it's actually a fabric dress. But anyway, he's managed to catch her and pull her back against the rock. She managed to find it against the rock. That almost sounds like he's slamming her into it, but I expect she's okay. She looks a bit worried, but she's not cracked. She managed to find a place for her feet, but she was very frightened still. The Iron Boy could feel her shaking. They stood still again for a few minutes, and then they began to climb down once more, until at last they reached the rock. I thought they were going to rest. I mean, standing still is a kind of resting, I guess. It's possible that just by not moving, they become less tired, and that they don't actually have to sit or sleep or eat anything. Till last they reached the rock, which jutted out over the water like a shelf. Oh no, sorry, so they've only just got to the resting rock. But there was no way down from the rock. It's the end of the path, said the Iron Boy. But they're quite close to the water. He looked at... this is actually quite nice. You see there, the boy fell, the girl caught her, and then the girl fell, the boy caught her. So they're both helping each other in this like final challenge. And in previous stories, there was like one where the girl was kind of useful because she could swim in the river, and then the boy was kind of useful. So it's been like, okay, my moment of expertise is upon us, and then the other ones, but here they're both needed, right? It's like a huge team effort to get over this final hurdle. I think that's quite nice. You get it in computer games if you have various party members, and then like the final fight, you have to use them all, some sort of combination, or at least the final, like the final dungeon. So that's kind of what they're going for, I think. He looked at the cliff. It was like a steep wall, and they were still high above the water. We can't climb down there, he said. Look, said the son of a girl. That's also good. Now she's being observant. A few pages ago, it was the boy who went, look. So yeah, they're both really working together here. It's not like there's one leader and one person who's just coming along for the ride. Which I think is good, because often they're putting the boy first when they're describing things. He's often the one talking. It's like, goodbye, Iron Boy, goodbye, Sunward Girl. His was the first book in the whole series. He's getting given first mention in quite a lot of context. So it's good that they're making it clear that they're both contributing quite well here. Look at the big cave. The pony was right. There's a path there into the mountain. From where they stood, they could see into the big cave. Silver moss was growing on the walls. There were steps cut in the rock, and there was a path along by the river. Okay. But how are they going to get there? Do you think the magician was right? Said the Iron Boy. Well, it's a bit late to be asking that. I mean, they've gone on this whole trip based on what the magician said. And only now they're questioning the veracity of his claims. Suppose he was wrong, then I should sink down to the bottom of the river, and that would be the end of me. That's an interesting thing. He doesn't know that. If he's never been underwater, well, he is underwater in one of the other books, but he kind of, does that mean he does have to breathe? Or it just means he'll never be able to get back up again, like, so he'll just be stuck. But I think if you're not really alive, can you be really dead? Don't know. But he certainly seems to fear the water, and it could be irrational. Like in the Truman Show. If you've seen that. We shall have to... I mean, there it's not completely irrational. Obviously, if Truman were to drown, he would drown. But anyway. But we don't know if that's true of the Iron Boy. He thinks so anyway. That's enough to frighten him. We shall have to trust him, said the son of a girl. I mean, they've trusted him all this way. It would be bizarre. I mean, they're just getting cold feet, which I think is natural, because they can experience fear and tiredness and other emotions, so cold feet. We can't climb back up the cliff. If you are still made of iron when we fall in the water, I shall still be made of wood. I'll try to hold you up as I did before when the bridge broke. So that's in... the second book, I think. The third book. That's in On the Way to the Blue Mountains. As I did before, when the bridge broke and we fell into the river. So yeah, so actually I'll be fine. They've experienced a situation very like that before. The Iron Boy looked up at the cliff. We'll go, he said. We can't climb back. We'll trust the magician. They stood on the rock, hand in hand. Jump! Cried the Iron Boy. Didn't even do 1, 2, 3, jump. And they jumped down into the Silver River. They almost look like they're kind of scraping their heels along the rock there, like they're kicking up little stones, so they're going down the rock face. Which doesn't seem very wise, even if you are made of iron and wood. They haven't... It's probably because they're nervous, they've really just hardly they've almost just fallen off. I hope that doesn't mean they go head first and crack their skulls open. Or like where the skull would be if you had bones. Heads, I guess you can call them. They fell down under the water, but as they plunged into the Silver River, a great change came over them. Oh wow, so it's working. The Iron Boys suddenly found they might just put this moment of nervousness in, so that if you haven't read the other books, you kind of understand what's meant to be happening. Like the magician told them about swimming in the river and stuff. I know it was in the recap, but just to remind you once more. And then also, if you hadn't read the one about them falling in the river, it's good to mention that because it is important at this stage. Excuse me. The Iron Boy suddenly found that he wasn't sinking to the bottom. He kicked his legs and came up to the surface. He could swim! And the Sandoval girl didn't float on the water. She went under too, and she had to swim. But her legs weren't stiff anymore, and she moved her arms easily. Her shoe has fallen off. Maybe that's what happens when you turn into a real girl. We've changed, cried the Sandoval girl. Must have their heads above water when they're saying that. Otherwise she's going to drown. We're truly alive. We're real children. Wow, that's exciting. Water looks very green there, even though it's supposed to be called the Silver River. But they play with colour quite a lot. Oh, they're having a dance. They swam across to the cave and climbed up the steps to the path. We've changed, cried the Sandalwood girl again. The magician was right. We changed in the Silver River. There's a comma there after changed. That's fine. The cave seems much smaller, said the Iron Boy. It's not the cave, it's us, said the Sandalwood girl. The cave isn't smaller. We're bigger. We're real children now. Oh, so they've been kind of like tiny things, have they? Well, that wasn't clear to me before. And they could have been any size. I didn't really have much point of reference. Because you don't know how big a silver pony is. You don't know how big... I guess they were chatting to a hare in one of the books, but hares can be very large as well. But okay, so they were smaller than real children. I mean, children vary in size enormously as well. If it doesn't tell you how old they are. The Iron Boy and the Sandal Girl were so happy that they began to dance. Wasn't that nice? She has lost her shoes, though. He lost his hammer quite a while ago. And now she's also lost her shoes. So they'll have to pretty much start from scratch in the country of Zorn. With very little property to their name. They jumped into the air and they shouted. Oh, he looks a bit worried now. They held hands and twisted round and round. They forgot that they were tired. I don't know if that's specifically doing the twist, the dance, or it just means they kind of twisted. I'm not sure if the twist does go round, actually. Doesn't it kind of... I don't know. I only know about it from Pulp Fiction. They forgot that they were tired. They forgot that they didn't know where they were going. Real children can be quite forgetful. They danced and jumped about and shouted until at last they were out of breath. It's possible they wouldn't have been able to be out of breath before they were real. We're alive, cried the Sandal Girl. We're really and truly alive. They're really hammering at home now what that means. They could scarcely believe it. I'm hungry, said the Iron Boy. You don't feel hungry when you're made of iron, but you do when you are alive. Well, I mentioned that. So they were able to feel tired but not hungry, and so now he's got to get himself some food. And if he's a regulation child, I guess he'll just... I guess they said there was moss on the walls. You could start eating some moss. I'm hungry too, said the Sandalwood Girl. Let's go along the path and see if we can find the great valley. They haven't capitalised that this time. The silver pony told us about. They turned along the path into the cave. It wasn't dark because the silver moss on the walls was shining brightly. Well, they might not want to eat their one source of light then. The river ran along beside the path. They'd not gone far when they saw a light coming towards them, or another light. It's an enormous ball of moss. No, it's not. A tall woman carrying a lantern was coming along the path. She wore a long white tunic and a cloak. Who are you? She asked in a kindly voice. And where have you come from? We have come down the cliff, said the Iron Boy. She probably meant where originally. She probably meant have you come from Puddle Lane or something. Candletown, I think is the name of the town. But anyway, He's not that bright. I was made of iron, but when I jumped into the Silver River, I wasn't iron any longer. And I was made of sandalwood, said the girl. We both came to the Blue Mountains to find the Silver River. When we jumped in, we changed. We're alive now. We're truly alive. And that's almost the definition of telling someone your whole life story when they just said, where have you come from? They didn't actually mention that they've come from Candletown, Puddle Lane. They can always get to that in a minute. But we don't know our names, said the Iron Boy. The magician said I should find an... She doesn't know who the magician is. She's going to be absolutely baffled. The magician said I should find a name when I found the river. A boy made of iron and a girl made of sandalwood, exclaimed the woman. I know your names. Wow. That's weird. Maybe she's in cahoots with the magician. Although I think it was he who said you haven't a name, so actually being in cahoots with the magician wouldn't help me very much in this situation. She turned to the Iron Boy. Your name is Irun. That's I-R-U-N. So it could just be pronounced iron. But I'm going to say Irun. She said, she turned to the sandalwood girl. You're called Sandella. Well, that sounds a bit like sandal, doesn't it? And my name is Alana. Alana. I don't know if she was previously made of some other material that sounds a bit like Alana. Can't think of any. And I come from the Valley of Zorn. That's just Valley of Zorn, but it's probably the same as the Great Valley of Zorn. How do you know our names? Asked Irene. She could just be making them up. Because there is a story in the Valley of Zorn, said Alana. I've heard it since I was a child. It is about an iron boy and a sandalwood girl who will come over the mountains one day, so it's like a prophecy. That's exciting. And now it has been fulfilled. Their names are Irun and Sandella, and the story says that they will live in the country of Zorn and do many wonderful things as they grow up. You must be Irun and Sandella. I'm glad you have come at last. That almost sounds like McCullagh is trying to leave herself the opportunity to write lots of other books about Irun and Sandella and their adventures in the country of Zorn. And they like doing that, leaving the possibility of a sequel open, or several sequels. And Alana gave Irun and Sandella some little cakes to eat, and they didn't feel tired anymore, so she's just had some provisions with her, which she's sharing. He's happy about those cakes. You could argue that it's not a good message for children to just take little cakes off strangers you meet in weird valleys, but they've been very trusting of everybody, and they are in a very unique, a very special situation here. And they didn't feel tired. It doesn't say if they didn't feel hungry, but I guess they didn't. So by eating, they have now combated their tiredness, which they used to be able to do just by resting, but now they need to eat as well. It's almost like they've gone onto hard mode in some sort of computer game. Oh wow, there's a big city there now. Sandella and Irun walked on through the cave with Alana until they came to the other end. I don't know if Alana, it's got 3 A's in it, if that's got some symbolic meaning. I mean, it's a bit reminiscent of Aslan, who is the god character in the Narnia books. You know, it's got A, L, A and N in it, in that order. And she's just appearing from nowhere with food, and knowing people's names and knowing our prophecies. So maybe she is the god of Zorn, I don't know. Seems a bit like it. She's also got kind of blonde hair, which is a bit like a mane. I don't know if this came out post Narnia. Not saying it's ripped off, but you know, you get these kind of themes in the culture, in the air, as it were. It was published in Leicestershire in Roman numerals, so give me a moment, 1986. So I could look up when the first Lion, Witch and the Wardrobe was probably the first one to be published, where Aslan shows up. Yeah, it was a bit like that, actually. You know, also coming in the light, right? You see this light, and it's like, ooh. It's like someone just emerging. Yeah, that's probably what that is. This is probably like the god figure, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. Quite like Aslan. So what's going on then? So they're coming out the cave, and they saw the great valley of Zorn spread out before them. Not far away, they could see the towers of a big city. You can live there in my home, said Alana. That's not quite clear if she means in her house, or if she just means in my hometown. You'll find somewhere to live, or if she's actually inviting them to stay with her until they find their own flat. That's really very unclear. If she's kind of the god of Zorn, then I expect she just means generally in the city. So Irune and Sandela went with Alana to the wonderful city of Zorn. And that's the end. So yeah, I mean, you could very easily imagine a book called Puddle Lane, Irune and Sandela live in the country of Zorn, or something happens in Zorn. Or it could be called The Adventures of Irune and Sandela in Zorn, and then, could be various things happening. Like a dragon comes to visit, and they befriend the dragon, or whatever people do in these books. So that's the end of the series. As I say, do check out the others. Obviously a very happy ending. I quite like this kind of the way this deity-like figure appears at the end. If I do find out when, I may even do The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe on this channel, and then I can reference this maybe, if I get around to it. Although I probably won't get to the bits with Aslan, because he probably shows up quite in the end, the same way Alana does. But there you have it. I think that was quite good all round. I quite like the way it flows from one story to the next, that you don't feel disjointed. They have lots of throwbacks to the previous books, like even they're quite explicitly talk, like they even mention it. Don't you remember in book 2? I think I'm saying book 2, but don't you remember when we fell in the river? So you feel very much like the series holds together, even though you can read them separately. I think reading them as a series is kind of better. Particularly, one thing about having a series like this is you obviously know that they're not going to drown in book 2 if there's a book 5, whether on the front cover. But that is kind of to be expected anyway. That it's going to be an adventure with pitfalls and difficulties, challenges, but that they're going to make it in the end. It would be rather surprising and unusual if they did just come a cropper in book 3, and then book 4 is just about some dragons and a hare interacting the way dragons and hares normally do, with no visit from Candletown children. But yeah, it would be quite interesting if there are other books, and see if they do grow up, if there's Irune and Sandela at the teenage years, or they have to look for jobs, have to get independent, move out of Alana's home, find somewhere to live. But Zorn seems like quite a happy place, probably quite magical. It's possible it's doesn't have a lot of the problems some major cities do. But we'll have to see. We'll have to read the other books to find out about that. There are probably villains and baddies and monsters and things, so I'm sure you could write something with trials and tribulations if you wanted to. So well done, McCullagh, as I say. Also, if you did enjoy this series of videos, do let me know, because obviously there are other book story series that I could look into reviewing one at a time in a similar way. And also, if you want more Puddle Lane, let me know. I was thinking of doing something about the mice. Someone on Twitter was asking about the mice books, so I will look into them in the near future. And otherwise, do join me next time for another of Mr. Bench's book reviews. Bye!